Okay, hi. Yeah, my name's Eric. So, anyways, yeah, I just called this Life in the VFX Trenches. I got that from a film class I took. It was like Life in the Trenches. So it's a good way to look at it. Funny, I think this is the same color, I can nerd out here because that they use for the Star Wars I guess this blue color. I noticed that. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, I wanted to give a talk on effects. There's a lot of I, I've done a lot of effects, especially over the past 2 years, but I've been in effects way longer than that. And there's I have a few topics that I've been interested in recently, and I just thought it'd be fun to throw a bunch of random effects topics together that hopefully you'll find interesting and informative that I've been thinking about recently. So there's going to be there's going to be no coherent narrative to this talk. But hopefully, it starts with something cool and it ends with something cool. The middle might be a little bit boring, but I tried to pick topics that I think had some kind of point to them or some kind of lesson, because I'm always trying to learn new stuff. And, that's one of the things that, you're always like, oh my God, I got to keep learning new stuff out of school. But then you just have to embrace that. And that's the way the industry works. And, boom. So yeah, I wasn't really big into school, especially math and science. But now it's I've kind of learned math is kind of cool when you can actually apply it. And we do kind of science. We do a little bit of kind of fake science. So yeah, it's nice when you can actually like it. I study computer science, minor in art. If you've ever taken an art class at like a university, it's very different from like an art class, a real art class. So my art class, basically the teacher was like, okay, get over here. Here's a picture, draw this. So they didn't really teach us any techniques, but it was still fun. I went to University of Maryland, UC Davis. I always tell people I got a crappy education, but at least it was cheap. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of debt, and I had fun. Yeah, and I started out with Maya. I kind of stayed with Maya way too long. And I finally made this switch to Houdini. It was painful. And it's funny, if you talk to any VFX person who switches from Maya to Houdini, they all have the same story. They're like, okay, I tried to switch, to learn Houdini, and it was tough. And they have to plow through it. So it's tough, but I'm glad I made the switch. Right now, I always try and keep learning new stuff. I'll learn from anybody. And I'm trying to have fun with the VFX as a whole industry, because you have to. I think if you have fun with it, if you're having a good time, it's easier to learn and grow. So yeah, I want to start with an interesting topic that's starts as a film topic, but it kind of segues a little bit into effects, and that is cheating. Cheating in a film VFX context. Let's just define it as when things aren't what they seem. So I have a couple of clips. I'm sure you guys have seen them. Okay, they start easy, real easy, and they get harder. It's the classic cheat. Okay, there's your cheat. Actually, it is. This is awesome. You haven't seen this movie. There's another one. Okay, it's really well done. Where's the cheat? I'm sorry. I know it's an easy question. Anybody know the name of this cheat? Yes. Yeah. Texas switch. God, yeah, I think this came from the Westerns, and I'm sure this has been used for a while. I should have found the first example, but I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Basically, cowboy, he falls from a balcony, he lands behind a couch, and the stuntman falls, and then the actual actor pops up. And if it's done well, and this is actually done really well. This one shot. This one is just done so well. Boom. Oh my God. It's just, God, it's so incredible. Yeah. So it's a Texas switch. It's cheat. It's not an effects thing, but it works. And it's kind of, obviously you notice it, but it's funny because it's a comedy, but you also admire it. It's just done so well. So that's a cheat. That's really, really cool. Which is the next one. Okay. This is from probably my favorite movie ever. One of my, I have like two favorite movies, but this is one of them. Anybody seen Evil Dead? Bruce Campbell? Okay. So This one's, yeah, you'll see. It's directed by Sam Raimi, who just directed Doctor Strange, but this is probably his best movie. Okay. Okay, that's a good ending to that. Okay, so where was the where was the cheat? I mean, actually, I should tell you what shot it was. But where? Yeah, yeah, the flash frame. Again, I haven't seen it behind the scenes, but yeah, let's watch that again. It's really well done. I love this cheat. You know, and you'll see a white frame, boom, and they probably switched guns. They probably hid the spark, whatever was creating the sparks. But this is really well done. Sam Raimi's got a lot of cool stuff in it. But yeah, that's a really cool one too. Okay, and this one's a little bit tricky, and from Terminator 2, it's a deleted scene.
Do it. Now open the port cover. Pull to break the seal. Good. Now remove the shock damping assembly. You can now access.
This is a deleted scene. Anybody know where was the cheat? Mirror. Did you guys figure it out, or did you see it? Anybody? You could tell, yeah. Darn, I thought trying to get more people from it, but yeah, I thought I was the only one. I was like, oh my god, because I actually figured this one out because I'd seen it before. There's actually another shot in Evil Dead 2, which I didn't bring, where the guys where there's a fake mirror. But yeah, it's really well done. But yeah, it's definitely obvious. But yeah, it's really cool. So so you see the real Arnold's here and the dummies here, and they somehow line it up. Yeah, even if you know it, I think it's you have to acknowledge it's a really well done cheat, and I like the fact that this is done without any CGI. It's just it was just they shot it all on location. I think they probably used Linda Hamilton's sister as the reflection, because she has a twin sister, which they used in that movie. So so that's a cool cheat. So yeah, so we kind of get the picture of cheats. So so what does this mean with effects? So we can do some cheating in effects as well. Let me see. Each of these. So I have a couple examples where I did some cheats, which again, so these aren't quite as exciting, but they're subtle. But I was able to use cheating, and I think it worked, and it. I don't know if it helps a lot quality, but it definitely made my life easier in terms of being able to get the shot done quickly and efficiently, which is really important because I'm working in TV where we're under deadlines. We have very limited resources. So, okay, again, not the most exciting shot, but it's pretty serviceable. So we have this rock, and boom, the crack appears. And first, when when you hear about the shot, you're like, oh my God, I got to crack the rock and stuff. That's tough. And there's a lot of issues with cracking geometry, textures and stuff. But I basically I rendered a little, a crack element and just slapped it on top of there and wiped. But of course you can't just project the crack, but I used the dust and rocks to kind of hide it. Just right where the crack was appearing, I have dust and rocks coming out, and yeah, it just makes things a lot easier. It's just like boom, and it's kind of obvious, but yeah, it just makes it easier. So I think you only need like one frame of chaos to be able to cheat and change stuff. So so I think there's a lot of effects where you can do cheating type moves where people won't realize until later. Of course, we have CG, so we can do wipe type things. And I did something similar on this other shot. which is a soup bowl. So we created this soup with carrots, and this is actually something that I did this in Houdini. I did a flip fluid sim combined with a rigid body sim, which I didn't know how to do. I had to find a tutorial, and thankfully I found one where they actually had flip and rigid bodies kind of simming together. And it's funny, this is something that like normal people, they'd be like, oh, it's just a soup with vegetables, it's not that big a deal. But like effects people like, oh my God, it's you know, it's a lot of issues. Are the vegetables going to be soft? Are they going to be breaking up? It's just, yeah, it's a bowl of soup, like, or especially, or there are particles in it. So there's a lot of issues. We just did a simple version. So I created this the soup element and to be reused with vegetables in it, boiling, which was it was tough. It was a lot of work. And it could be reused in shots, in normal shots. But then I did this hero shot where you have the soup, and we needed this character chopping carrots and splashing the carrots into the soup. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do a big big resim. The carrots are gonna have to go in the soup and swirl around. But then when I thought about it, I looked at some reference footage. I was like, wait a second, let's see if the characters, like, maybe there's a puff of steam I can use to hide the carrots. And that's what I did. And it seems to work. It's like, so you have the soup bowl, and this character takes carrots. Boop. It's like, where'd the carrots go? I don't know. Just like, and you don't notice because you have the little puff of steam. So I could use that. I didn't have to resim this soup. I could use the old sim and just hide the transition in a puff of smoke, and that just made things easier. And it's funny because like just these carrots coming off the chopping board, that looks like a simple, but that was tricky to do because I probably could have just hand animated that. But sometimes simming stuff is like it's tricky when you want stuff to move correctly. So yeah, I just use the height of this little steam element. And again, as you know, just creating a little puff of steam is something that's pretty easy to do. It was pretty quick to create that in 3D and just slap it on top and do that. So yeah, just always, you can always find little cheats to do in effects that you maybe not be physically correct. Maybe you're hiding something that, but if, it's like the old saying, if it looks good enough, it is good enough. So yeah, and I have one more in the end example to show you did cheat, but that's a for example. So yeah, again, if you find ways to cheat, especially using compositing in transitions, that's generally a good thing if you can get away with it. So the question was it for the soup, vegetables in the soup, was it the flip or the RBD first? That's a really good question, because that's something you always have to deal with effects. You want A to drive B or B to drive A. If you can get it, if you can have that workflow, that's always good. But for this, actually, I could actually connect the solvers. I don't remember how I did it. I'll find the tutorial and I'll shoot it to Deb, and she could. But I found a tutorial on combining flip and R&D in the same, or RBD in the same sim. Yeah, so I actually sim them together. But that might not have been the best approach, because when you're dealing with multi-solvers, it's like these things affect each other. I think sometimes I should have if I could just sim this flip first and then have the chunks moving around afterwards, that might have been a better approach. It's always easier to control it that way. But yeah, I want to, sometimes when you want to be clever and be like, okay, I'm going to sim everything together, sometimes that works. But yeah, if you can have one thing driving the other, that way you can do this one and then do this one separately.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Yeah. So sometimes you can do that, and sometimes you can sim everything together. But yeah, fortunately, I was able to sim the flip fluids and the RBD together. Yeah, that was a good question. Okay, like I said, they're completely different topics, so we're gonna transition to this next one, which is the all-time greatest cheat in VFX history. This is from a movie you guys might have heard of, Star Wars. But I don't know if any of you guys, be honest, if any of you have heard about this treat before. I think you'll probably be able to figure it out, but I'd be surprised. And the only reason, I wish I could say I figured this out on my own, but I went to a SIGGRAPH presentation probably in the early to mid 2000s. It was on image-based rendering. I should find out exactly what it was. And they actually broke down this one shot, which was incredible. And it's like sitting right under your nose. And yeah, you'll see it. It is at 5:58. Okay, let's watch it in full screen. Okay, it's a trench. It's a shot going into the Death Star trench, which, you know, I don't want to know how many times you guys have seen it, but maybe you've noticed this cheat before, and maybe you'll be able to figure out what it is. But yeah, let's watch it. I'll tell you.
Stay in attack formation.
Exhaust port is marked and locked in.
Okay, it's this shot. That's it. Okay, let's watch it one more time.
Marked and locked in.
Okay, what's the cheat? Yeah. Did any of you guys know it before I showed this? Yeah. See, okay, good. I'm not. Yeah. So there's a cut from just an image. They're moving in on an image, and then they cut to the actual 3D model, or the 3D the motion controlled shot. And it's really smart because how do they hide the cut? In the blaster. And the really smart thing is there's not just one blast, there's two blasts. The first one is just to, okay, there are blasts here, and then the second blast is used for the cut. It's so incredible. Now that you know that, watch it one more time. So the first, until the second blast, it is just an image.
Exhaust port is marked and locked in.
And it's incredible.
Switch all power to.
I think that's the coolest
Switch all
cheat,
power.
I've ever seen. No, did anybody know this beforehand? Okay, good. Now you guys at least learned something today. But yeah, it's incredible what you could get away with just going into an image, and your brain kind of fills in the rest of it. So yeah, I can't believe nobody's of all these nerds out there on the internet, nobody's actually done a breakdown video of this shot. There's probably one out there on YouTube, but I remember this from the SIGGRAPH presentation way back. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I think it looks better than anything obviously they do it with CG now, but yeah, pretty cool. If anybody wants to do a breakdown video, if you have time, that'd be pretty cool. Okay, so moving on from cheating, another topic I've been thinking about recently that I think is interesting is integration between the VFX and the environment. Usually when people talk about integration, or they talk about it with lighting, if you have a VFX element, it should be lighting the environment, or the environment's lighting the VFX element. But then there's also motion integration with animation, which is important. And I have a couple examples. And of course, another thing to realize, it can go both ways. It depends. Obviously, if you have a lightning bolt, that's going to be lighting the environment. You're not going to light the lightning bolt with the environment. But if you have a dust cloud, it's going to be lit by the environment. And maybe you could go both ways. So, and again, I was looking for good examples of it, kind of old school one from Terminator, first Terminator, very first one. And I was looking at the lightning effects, and they're really good. And again, this is way before digital. It could have been hand painted or multiple exposure. But one thing, this is of course early James Cameron. One thing he did that was really smart, it seems kind of obvious, is he lit the scene with some kind of strobe light to have the lightning actually, affecting the scene. And your brain fills it in. And I think it just really works. And there's even some matte stuff behind this guy. This one, yeah. See, they even matted out the lightning behind the truck. So this is really smart. But the interactive lighting really sells this lightning. And again, it seems like an obvious thing, but I think that I think maybe some directors now, they wouldn't do that. They'd be like, oh, let's just do it all in CG, and it wouldn't look as good. So yeah, I think that's really well done. Again, super low budget. I think if I had a choice between seeing the original Terminator and the first Avatar, I'd probably just watch the original Terminator again. I don't know about the next Avatar. That might be, I'll probably have to see that eventually. Another movie I've seen recently, in the 80s, Predator, the first one. Let's see, does this spoil anything? Not really. Anyways, yeah, it's a 87 movie. If you haven't seen the original Predator, it's a great movie. It's the film techniques are really good. And even the effects are really good. But so I hate to say anything bad about Predator, but there's this lightning effect that is an example where they could have used some interactive lighting. I would guess they probably did this effect as an afterthought. They probably didn't plan it. The lightning actually looks really cool. Where he's kind of malfunctioning and he's becoming visible. See, I think we get a closer look at it later. And I would guess this is, I mean, yeah, well, obviously this is hand animated, but it would have been cool to have some interactive, yeah, here, interactive lighting where the lightning actually lights the creature a little bit, and they don't have any of that, but I mean, it doesn't ruin it, but I think that would have been cool. But anyways, so that's so there's some examples of lighting integration. But then there's also motion integration. I don't know the technical term for it. I was thinking about calling it animation integration, but you guys will see what I mean in a second. And this is a completely different type of thing. This is not from a movie. This is a clip I thought was interesting from an ad for VFX stock footage. I keep getting these. I guess you guys probably get them too, popping up in my Facebook feed. I thought it was it's a cool shot. Okay, the shot of this guy, this
you
fire
can
guy.
simply drag it to your scene and start working on making it look.
Have you guys seen this ad? I thought it was a cool shot. I kind of like the lighting on it.
Seamless. If you do it right, no one will be able to.
I think that guy is the guy who actually does the tutorial, so he photographed himself.
You can simply drag it to your scene and start working on making it look.
So it's silly. It must have had a fun time shooting. Obviously, there's some lighting issues, but I think the lighting in comp is actually pretty good. But I think how could motion have improved this shot? Like motion integration of the effects motion with the live action motion. Any suggestions? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But you could get away with that too. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, because if you think about it, they're moving embers, this fire, I know about this, but the fire heat creates a lot of rippling in the end. So and again, you could get this for free. Some guy with a fan, when the guy starts breathing his fire, you aim the fan at him, so his hair and his clothing would be blowing around. So it's a little touch, but that would really sell the shot. So if you watch the shot now, like watch his clothing and his hair. I mean, they're just totally like.
And start working on
static.
making it look seamless. If you do it right, no one will be able.
I'm not going to rag on. I like this shot. I think this guy's really talented.
You can simply drag it to your scene and start working on making it look seamless. If you do it right.
Yeah, and the lighting, yeah, you just have some guy with some kind of crazy light rig that simulates this fire casting on his face. Yeah, that's interesting. You could actually do that in post with maybe with warping, just but yeah, I try not to rag on other people's shots because there's plenty of stuff on my reel to rag on, but it's always cool to try and see, okay, especially if it's something you could fix easily. But yeah, having his cheek like going or vibrating might be good, and I'd make his eyes glowing too for certain. Oh yeah, they have a little. You mean heat distortion? Oh, lens flare. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. You can never. I know people tell you not to use lens flares and that they're a cliche, but there's definitely a time and place for them. Especially if you look in real life, there's a lot of lens flare. Yeah, especially for bright sunlight. But yeah, that's enough for this shot. It's a cool shot. I used it because I like it. But yeah, I think the point is there's lighting integration and then motion integration, and then you guys will probably rag on my shot too. But you can. It's TV, so it's a quick schedule. But yeah, I did a shot where I did one thing right on this shot. Again, it was Zoic. it was actually a fun show. Okay, so I actually did something right in this shot with motion integration. So this, so she stabs him. Yeah. So she pulls out her sword and disappears. So I was actually using somebody else's setup. Again, it's a cool thing you can do with Houdini. It's reusable. To do this shot. So they give me the setup. Okay, do this shot. But I did one thing right on this shot. When she's pulling her sword out of the guy, I had the sword suck that green shit out of him, you know? So it's just kind of like, I think that kind of, it just adds a little bit of integration. Obviously there's a lot more stuff you could do with this shot, but I thought, okay, it's the sword's moving that way. The green stuff's moving that way too. Okay. It makes it a little bit believable. So I think that was, yeah, you guys don't show any of that other stuff. But yeah. So I had I used a little bit of motion integration in that shot. Okay, actually, this is actually not totally unrelated. The idea of breaking up motion. So this came to me, or it was more of a note that I got and that I thought was useful on a shot. This was at COSA. It's actually one of the shots I did at COSA. So the idea behind this shot was you have this guy and he's tied up with film and he gets burned alive. I don't know if he's already dead. I don't know. I didn't watch the thing, but anyways, this guy gets burned by film. Apparently film is actually very flammable. I think I learned that working on the shot, or at least it was in the time period this worked. So this guy gets burned with these film strips. So yeah, it goes by really quick. So this is actually this is 3D fire. They layered some practical elements, which is good. So the fire catches along these, the fire kind of travels along these film strips. And I got a note I think that was really interesting for this. It's hard to tell, but my first instinct, oh, you have fire moving along a surface. You want to just, keyframe this ramp. Okay, it goes from A to B. And that looked okay, but it's better if you break up the motion, if you have it kind of traveling kind of in an uneven way, like you have it stopping and starting, going like, so it goes fast, it stops and starts. So that makes it seem a little bit more organic. So I've just set up here where I have 3 different fire emitters. This first one this actually gets into a little bit of technical stuff, which you guys appreciate. So it's just literally like a keyframe. So this is kind of the first thing you might have as an emitter. It actually looks okay if you plug this into the sim. I have my switch node here. Okay. And then play back the sim. So this is just this constant motion. Oh yeah, this is a little. Let me actually down res this a little bit. 5. I want to stress out your laptop. Yeah, anyways, it's a little so you have it moving, growing kind of constantly. But if you want to break up the motion of a fire, the first thing to do, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. I think VFX people, we always try and choose a procedural solution. But if you want to break up motion, the first thing you can just literally keyframe it. So I just keyframed a couple of starts and stops of this fire emitter here. So it's just not going in a constant way. I just did it kind of not the dumb way, but and you have total control. So I just literally put a couple, that's actually how I did the shot. I keyframed a couple stops and starts and it worked fine. But this is Houdini. So we want to try and do things procedurally when we can. Imagine if you had to do, several hundred or particles that are moving in kind of a stopping and starting manner. You wouldn't want to keyframe them. You'd have to think of a procedural way. And this is something I just did it because I thought it was an interesting exercise of how to have this thing grow procedurally. So actually, I used a solver, and it's pretty simple VEX code. this thing growing and stopping. So I use noise. So the solver gets the previous frame and it just adds the value to the next frame. And I use the point wrangle. So this is pretty, let me use the, just learn this today, Control Plus. Yeah. So, so I just get a noise based on the frame. I'm just scaling the time by 0.4. It's kind of an arbitrary number. Anybody know why? Oh, actually, I wrote this down. So this is one of the annoying things about VEX that's when you call a noise function in VEX. What's the VEX noise centered on? Anybody? Okay, for the most simple noise, which is the kindergarten one. It's centered on 0.5 for the basic noise. But is that good or bad? Why is the noise centered on 0.5? Okay, so I'm sure there's a reason, but yeah. So you don't get negative values. Yeah, I understand why. But as far as like, it's kind of annoying for for work for me. I mean, yeah, maybe it depends. But yeah, the first thing I always do with noise is I subtract 0.5 because you want your noise to be zero centered whenever I do anything with it. And this is just the most simple kind of kindergarten noise. It's great. It only has one input, as opposed to there's tons of VEX noise functions. I'm still learning them where they have several inputs and they're kind of, yeah, I'm sure they're useful, but it's there's a lot of stuff out there. But this is the most basic noise. I center 0.5 and then you clamp it. So that this clamps the zero value, the negative values to 0. And then you just add that to the position of the point. And it takes the previous frame and adds it. So it's nice because you get this kind of, it doesn't work if you have to be outside the solver to work. And yeah, so you can get this kind of like sporadic growing, and it's nice because it can kind of keep going forever. So that's how you can animate that. So I thought that was a good exercise. I haven't used this, but just one of those things. I'm just going to keep that in my back pocket in my bag of tricks, and hopefully I'll get a chance to use that eventually. Okay, so that was breaking up motion. Okay, this was a cool trick. Actually, I used this in production, and hopefully I'll be able to use it again. It involves Houdini and Nuke, lighting lots of small points. This is something like a sandstorm type effect, and you have a lot of points, which VFX shots tend to have that, and you want to light them nicely. You have this huge array of points; they're very tiny. And the problem with lighting them is if you just put them into normal light, you'll get the light bouncing off the points, and the points are opaque. You could do stuff with transparency, but it would be a little bit tricky to get really like smooth, soft lighting with points. So there's this one trick, and it's funny. I thought of this trick, and I told one of the guys there. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know that trick too." But that's a lot of times you got to reinvent stuff, and I don't even know. I might not have thought of it myself. It might be something I remember that I was told earlier. But again, it's a cool trick, and it's nice and simple. I like to keep the simple tricks. So, that's a good question. What format do you use to send stuff from Houdini to Maya? So if it's volumes, we use VDBs. And if it's geometry, I don't think I've ever sent geometry like normal geometry from Houdini to Maya. But for points, we use alembics. Yeah, we send these points, and we rendered V-Ray, which seems to work pretty well. Yeah, it's funny, my Houdini rendering skills, whenever you stop using something, it deteriorates. I'm like, man, my Houdini render skills have gone downhill, but my V-Ray skills are pretty good. So let's actually play this thing. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, this is probably, oh wow, your computer is actually handling this pretty well. It's pretty good. Okay, so I just emitted a ton of particles. Let me actually turn on the display to point size to 1. Okay, so this is what I mean by a lot of particles, and this actually isn't very cool. I just want to have them kind of spread out. So if you want to light these, how do you do it? So the solution, this is a nice, simple and fairly straightforward trick. You have the particles here, and you render the particles just for the alpha channel. You don't worry about the lighting. To get the lighting, you convert the particles into gotta disable this cache. You convert the particles into a volume. and you light the volume. So you can get nice smooth lighting on the volume. And then you can combine them in Nuke. So, and again, this is one of the things that, you guys take for granted in Houdini, but this will be like impossible to do in Maya. Just convert a bunch of points to the volume. So you just have points and boom, you can rasterize it at any resolution, and then you light the volume. So your renders will look something like this. So your particle render, all you care about the particles for is the matte. So this is all you get from the particles. So you get the nice kind of fine detail. So you get the alpha channel from the particles, and then you render the volume for the lighting. So, and obviously, you can use the kind of, I still use this. I know it's kind of kind of an old school trick, just the red, green, and blue lights. It works, keeps things simple. You have a red light for the key and then the green light for the sky. So you probably wouldn't want to use this render because of the volume renders get all fuzzy, but this is great for the lighting, to get the nice kind of soft lighting. And then you just slap them on Nuke. You use the alpha channel for the particles, and then the lighting for the colors, and you get this. It doesn't, honestly, it doesn't look that great, but at least it kind of shows the basic idea. You can color the light to whatever you want. So the cool thing is you get the kind of the fine detail of the particles, and then you get the lighting of the volume. So it's a nice little trick. And I use this, and I don't even think you can tell where it was used, because this, it's like any shot. This has all this crazy stuff going on. It's this sand monster shot from Kung Fu Panda. Just his hand. So there's some additional stuff, but yeah, I use this to light the sand, but I don't think anybody can tell. There's just too much stuff going on, but at least I know. So again, yeah, it's a nice little lighting trick. So I have one more, and then thanks for Deb for letting me use this non-Houdini example. But obviously, if I was doing it today, I would use Houdini. But this is a good example because I think it shows kind of some basic problem solving with simulation, and it's kind of goofy and funny. And I know nobody's seen this clip before, because it was from this obscure VR short that I worked on in 2019. But it's pretty cool. And I think the concept is kind of funny. It's space vomit. I never done vomit. I done water, blood, spit, probably some other fluids, but I never done vomit before. And this is cartoony vomit. So that was the whole goal of this thing. And you'll see the clip. It kind of makes sense. So this gag, I thought this gag was pretty good. I think one of the story guys at Disney told me the worst type of jokes are body fluid jokes. But I have to disagree. I think if you can do one that's creative and interesting, do it. And we'll see. But I thought this was very creative. So I'll just to show you the basic idea, the premise gag. You have two astronauts. This is my storyboards. So there are two astronauts, one sitting behind the other. And they're wearing helmets. Those are blue things. And the first astronaut on the front, he vomits inside his helmet. And, okay, that's a fluid simulation, but he also kind of like moves around and stuff for like a while, maybe like 10 seconds inside the helmet. So the vomit's there for a while. So that got me a little bit nervous, because it's a long sim. Anytime it's a long sim, you're less like, oh my God, it's a long sim. So, and then at some point he takes off his helmet, and then the vomit somehow flies back and hits the second astronaut. So in the face. So it's a clever gag, but it was long. This was actually a VR short. So this is one shot, one really long shot. And it was scary. And, and of course we had limited time. And I was like, oh my God, how do I do this? But then, then you realize cheating is the way to do it. How can I cheat? So I broke them up. I broke the sims up into two sims. The first sim is when this guy vomits in his helmet, the vomit coats the inside of the helmet. And it also, creates a texture map on the helmet. And then I kind of slowly drained it away. And so there's no sim anymore when you got rid of it. So there's only a texture map for a while. And so So now he's moving around it, but there's just a texture. It's just, and that's real easy. And then for the second part of the gag, when he pulls the helmet and then this stuff flies back and hits this other guy, that's a secondary sim. So it's a totally separate sim. So that's a much easier problem to solve. And you have much more control. So it's, and of course, time-wise, you don't have the long sim. So that turned out to be a really useful way of doing it. And also, so RealFlow actually has I forget what they call it, the fluids painting the objects. And of course, Houdini has that as well. So I think this obviously would have been easier in Houdini, but I was able to pull it off. But yeah, again, the thing I got from this is whenever you can take a really big, nasty problem and separate it into a couple smaller problems in a smart way, that's a good thing. So, and I'll show you the clip. And this is actually weird because I actually rendered this out because it was a VR, so it was rendered in 360. So I rendered this out and synced the sound to it. Yeah, let me know if anybody's ever seen that. I'd be really surprised if anybody's seen this.
Hey, what's that plane doing?
7,
Good luck.
6,
Why do we need luck?
5,
Ah!
4,
Rachel,
3,
hold my hand.
Oh.
Hold it and don't you dare let go.
1.
Ouch, strong grip.
Launch. Whoa! We have liftoff.
Shit, it's that same goose.
Ooh.
Sorry, goose. Oh, I do not feel good. Oh, boy. Oh, am I green? Pale? What, like a sea foam?
Here comes
Like
the
a
vomit.
I think I'm gonna...
Он всех съедал, как конфеты в столовой.
Ah, it burns! Christ, it burns so bad! It's like gonorrhea in my eyes!
Riggins, keep it together. Boosters detaching.
Он там застрял, как рыба.
Wait, booster 2 hasn't detached.
Something's stuck in the auto lock.
God damn goose! That kamikaze bastard hit booster 2!
No, Riggins.
Manual override! Gonna shake it loose!
Do not have authorization to go manual.
Okay, here we go.
Hand back control, right?
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
Wow, you saved us.
That was a long time.
Just pretending all that didn't happen.
I've had enough of this.
No.
No.
Keep your helmet.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
It's so chunky.
Okay, so that was cute. This is a VR short, and it actually got into the Tribeca Film Festival. So they were trying to do a whole bunch of VR shorts, but I don't know what happened to it. But I'm proud of it, and yeah, it turned out to be pretty cool. And again, definitely taught me a lesson in problem solving. Chopping up problems into smaller problems. That's always the way to go. Okay, I'm almost done. 2 more minutes. 1 more minute, actually. I just have I got to plug my personal project I'm working on in case anybody can help out with character animation. I have this personal prog. It's a short about out of work actors fighting giant alien monster bugs. Just another one of those. I have the bug. I got this concept artist to design the bugs. I think it's pretty cool. Cool design. So yeah. Just the hard part is getting it. I have to somehow get some help getting animated and rigged. And I have the opening shot, which I have previs, which is pretty cool. Thinking again, this is just an animatic, but I think it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of a cute opening scene. So I've done a lot of work on it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, that's it. Well, thanks for coming. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know.